fact that that was unparliamentary language that was used, and somewhere down the line, a fine line needs to be drawn. Akash, I want to bring you in to talk about the larger issue. Artists being arrested is not something new. We've all seen the case of cartoonist Aseem Trivedi, who was jailed for sedition charges. Then you had the likes of Kunal Kamra, Veer Das, and of course the most recent one of Munawar Farooqi as well. Every time something similar happens, the artist community comes out and says our freedom of expression actually is being curbed. While that's a valid argument to make, look at the kind of language that this particular YouTuber had used. Does that argument even hold validity then?
So, it's very nice that you mentioned Aseem also, because when politicians are in power, then suddenly they don't like jokes. And then suddenly sedition becomes very, very important. There is no doubt, there is no debate over the fact is that if somebody goes ahead and abuses in the choicest of words to a politician, there shouldn't be action that should be taken. In a legal sense of the word, yes, action can be taken, action should be taken. One can debate whether you should have a thick skin and let things go or not.
Sure.
Well, it's the political party's choice. They didn't want to let it go. They haven't let it go. And that's that. And the person has been arrested. However, there is the larger case here that needs to be understood. Just a few years ago, you would have been doing shows, and you on your network also were very proudly having a comedy show, political satire show. Tell me how many political satirists can you name today? Tell me how many stand-up comic shows are happening today? And let's not say because of COVID. So the fact is that while abusing of politicians will result in action is absolutely okay. Look at the broader message that is happening. That if I joke about the Supreme Court, then I will have contempt of court. If I make or mock a politician, even without using word, then I will have an FIR lodged against me.
That is a separate argument where I'll get to that whether a fine line needs to be drawn on what is funny and what is objectionable. But I'm asking this up in arms that the artist community that we see at large, do we understand cases as isolated cases or do we see them as a broader sense? And the reason that I'm asking you, Akash, is because a lot of comparison today on social media was being made with the case of Munawar Farooqi. While I think that comparison doesn't hold, because Munawar Farooqi, he claims that he was arrested for a joke that he never made. But here, the comments are for everybody to see. So why shouldn't legal action follow?
There is no comparison whatsoever. The problem, and it also shows where our society is. Even today, you will have people saying that, Arey, but look at all this Nupur wala case. Munawar also made fun of our gods. So then are you saying that he was jailed? There was a court case and yet the government let him go after he mocked the gods? Or that there was no joke that could be brought to the courts? So there is obviously a very clear distinction. When you have broken the law, when the record is there, you get prosecuted. End of story.
Sure.
But why is this happening is because today, in today's day and age, anything can be alleged on you, anything can be labeled on you, and it will stick. There lies the problem. In this case, there is, of course, live Facebook, and I don't think anybody in the artistic community is defending somebody who openly abused. Yes. On the same breath, I will also say that Mamata Banerjee has often been accused of being very, very intolerant. There is that whole case of Jadavpur University, the cartoonist there being hounded for years. There is enough and more argument to be made. But if you ask in this particular example, it's a textbook case where somebody broke the law, somebody
and legal action
abused.
Followed.
There is clear evidence. There is no defense of that.
Okay. Punit, I want to bring you in also as part of this artist community. You're a performer yourself. How do you feel today when you see this? Where do you stand?
See, we perform every day and the space for us is shrinking. There's no question about it. The way you see 295 being misused every day, we already have thousands of gods in this country. We don't need more politicians becoming gods and adding to the list of holy cows in this country. So artists will keep pushing for more freedom of speech and the authorities keep pushing in the other direction. There's no end to this battle, but we have to keep fighting every day. Otherwise, I can see that the space is clearly shrinking. In this case, the gentleman in question, obviously, he used very unparliamentary language. But do you lock him up? Is he a menace to society? Is he a danger to general public goodwill? I really don't think so.
Ashutosh, let me take that question to you. Give us a legal perspective. The comments were for everybody to see, the language, everybody's heard it. Are there enough grounds to arrest him and send him to a police custody for about 10 days?
See, what I have to say, is that when there is any such kind of derogatory remarks, the intensity has to be seen. Now, if there is simply a criticism of any government agencies for not performing the work properly or whatever it is, I do not think that it should be treated in such a magnitude, and the FIR is registered under non-billable sections, and a person is arrested and taken into custody. Now, we have seen earlier also that when there was Section 66A of IT Act 2000, that was misused in many cases. Many of the FIRs were registered day after other. And finally, when it went to the Supreme Court repealed that section. Now, other example, what we have seen that many of the misuse of sections 124A, that is sedition, which has been filed in many of the cases, and many people have been prosecuted under this section. And when this matter again went to the Supreme Court, and now finally the Supreme Court has stayed, implication of this section at present. So the issue is that when our law enforcement agencies, like police in this case, they come to know about any such information, they should have a proper application of mind as to what kind of sections should be implicated. Now, in a case where a person has been defamed, simply section 500 can be imposed. But as we know that it would be a bailable section, and a person will not be prosecuted for long, and there will not be a longer custodial interrogation of that person. And hence the sections like 124A and other sections are implicated intentionally by some of the law enforcement agencies. So what I have to say is that any law enforcement agencies, they should be independent of the politicians and the government.
Agencies need to be independent as far as their own decisions are concerned. There should be no pressure as far as political parties are concerned. That's a valid point that you're making. Rishudutta, I want to come back to you. Now, I've done multiple shows as far as this debate of freedom of expression is concerned. One section of the artist community feels that if this is where we're headed, then why don't we make a list of certain topics saying religion is out of bounds, netas are out of bounds, sexual orientation is out of bounds, and then we make a law around it so that at least we also know what we're dealing with. When we put freedom of expression, this is a farce.
No, I will say this. See, you have Akash on your panel, and I personally will say that I am a big fan of him. I see his channel, and he's a master of political satire. He does it, but he's not being arrested. He's not been booked. See, the bottom line is we welcome criticism. You criticize, no problem.
Arrested yet.
If you do not like it, you criticize. But the time you go against, you go about insulting the modesty of a woman, you go and call out the name of a constitutional person who has been elected by the people and directly abuse them. That is a line that you cannot cross. Like I said, I can vehemently criticize the Modi Sarkar, I can vehemently criticize the policies of the Prime Minister of this country, but I cannot call directly Narendra Modi ji and abuse filthy language against him. That is crossing the line. There should be a line. I mean, we say that we live in a civil society. So in a civil society, the languages that you cannot use against your parents, against your children, I think you cannot cross that line when you are using against public figures. You cannot do that.